Welcome to In Between the Niches with Ron Hoyle.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of In Between the Niches. It's Ron with my good friend Michael Bradfield, who's also a portfolio manager at Core. In today's conversation, we just want to let you in behind the scenes, some different thoughts that we have, what goes on that you don't see. You come to an appointment, you meet with someone, you do a review, you have a great conversation, but there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes and a lot of thought process that not everybody knows about. So Michael, one thing I'd like to talk to you about, just would you mind expanding? SpaceX just had its IPO. Really exciting times in the market. Stocks going crazy. People are asking all kinds of questions about it, kind of like crypto in the very beginning, right?
Right.
When a company does an IPO, what's some of your thought processes? And expand on SpaceX if you'd like to as well.
Okay. Well, IPOs happen all the time, more than people think. The SpaceX did it this week. There were 6 of them last week. People never heard of the companies, but there were 6 of them last week.
Right.
So they happen all the time. The fact is that the really overhyped ones like SpaceX, it's great. You know, Elon is, I would never put anything past the guy. I think he'll do whatever he sets out to do. But when they IPO like this, they're typically way overvalued. Mm-hmm. They do that on purpose to try to get interest in the people to buy it, and it happened. It shot up to $200+ a share.
It started at 160 or something, didn't it?
It IPO'd at 130.
130. Okay.
That's what you could buy it at. Well, only certain people could buy it at that price prior to it actually trading on the open market, and it didn't actually start trading to where you could go in to wherever, whatever site you trade on, and buy it until about 11 or 12 o'clock that day.
Okay.
After the IPO. And it was, when it got to that point, it was 135, 140 a share already. The fact is that most IPOs after 12 months are down 10+%.
And that's historically, you're saying?
That's historically. 90% of them. And the overhyped ones are typically more than that. You know, Tesla IPO'd in 2010. It was a pretty big deal. They IPO'd at $17 a share. 1 year later, they had split a couple of times during that year, but 1 year later, their split adjusted stock price was $1.85 a share.
Right. Meta,
when they IPO'd, 2012, I think, or 2000, in that same time frame. After 12 months, they were 30% below the IPO price. And that's because there's a lot of, with Meta's case, they had like perfect, the IPO and the SEC filing was based on perfect advertising dollars. Well, we don't live in a perfect world.
Right.
And they did, when people found out, that's not really going to happen that way, then they're going to sell it and try to get money out. And some people buy it and sell it to get short-term gains. Also, before the IPO, there's a lot of insiders that have access and get shares. They might be employees of the company that got shares as part of their compensation. They might be clients of the banks or the firms that are, doing all the work to bring the stock to market, the SEC filings, all the stuff there's a lot of work that goes in prior to the stock going to market that has to be done. And it's done typically by the big banks. Morgan Stanley and Goldman did the SpaceX one.
Right.
So those people that have the shares prior to the idea, that got shares prior to the actually becoming a public company, they have a holding period that they're required. They cannot sell the shares for a certain period of time. Usually it's 3 to 6 months. Well, in that 3 to 6 month time frame, a lot of those people that receive the shares as compensation are going to cash some of them in and get cash out because it's part of their compensation, and they want to get some of their money out of it.
Which ultimately leads to bring down the hype for the stock.
And when you get a bunch of shares flooding the market, the price comes down. It drops pretty quickly. Right. So that's usually a lot of the reason why at the end of 12 months, most IPOs are 10% or more lower than their IPO price.
So,
And that's the better time to buy it, or even maybe before that a little bit during the end of the lockout period when the employees and the insiders start selling their shares.
right.
That's probably the time to if you want to buy it, go in and buy it.
So that's a lot of your thought process when these things come out before you add them to clients' portfolios. Give them a chance to get out of the rough waters into a little bit more predictable territories.
Right. Plus, you don't know anything yet. You haven't seen earnings. You haven't seen revenue. Well, you do know revenue for SpaceX, and they lost $10 billion last year. So
Right.
now Tesla lost money for years. It was several years before they actually started having positive earnings per share. But in the years leading up to that, it started getting better and better and better, and them getting closer and closer, and the revenue was growing and the earnings per share were growing.
And we certainly
And
kind
that's when that stock just exploded.
right. And I think most people, when it comes to Elon Musk, most people are thinking probably the same thing going to happen with SpaceX too, to some degree.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do. And I think there will be an opportunity to buy it probably 3 to 6 months, 8 months down the road, at less than the IPO price. And that's when we've had a lot of interest, a lot of people calling and asking, I want to get in on it. And this is what I've told them. I said, it's not yet.
So that's really great for people here because I know people are thinking, I missed out on the IPO. I missed out on the great opportunity. Really, the great opportunity is not now. The great opportunity is most likely coming.
Yes,
to get
the
that
better
stock.
Opportunity. Like, wouldn't you have liked to bought Tesla at $1.85 a share?
Oh, heck yeah. I wish we could invest in hindsight, right?
And would you rather pay $17 or $1.85?
Right.
And there, at Meta's the same way. Would you have rather paid their IPO price or 30% less than their IPO price 12 months later? So that's the way I look at IPOs, and it's most of them are that way. They all have insider people that have shares that are going to sell some of them once the lockout period's over. They all do.
Right.
There's employees, there's insiders, there's people, the officers of the company. They're they're going to want to get some of the cash out of the company because at this point they're probably still losing money. Most of them are losing money the first couple of years, especially big manufacturing things like Tesla, who has to build huge plants.
Facilities. Right.
That's not cheap to build all that. And it takes a while to recoup that money into where you're getting to the point of making positive earnings per share.
What is some of the research you're doing that you're seeing with technology? What's exciting you about technology and AI?
It's exciting and scary all at the same time. There are things coming that I think are going to be big, quantum computing, but it's also kind of scares me when you add quantum computing and artificial intelligence together. Wow, what's that going to,
It's a powerhouse.
Yeah. Because quantum computers will do things in seconds that take normal computers hours to do, processing the information. They're not there yet. Most people think they're still 5 to 10 years away from having them, but eventually everybody's going to have one in their house.
Yeah,
It's going to be the laptop you carry around
Exactly.
with you.
Isn't that scary?
And that's not as far away as you think. It's probably 20 years down the road. There's a lot of those companies. I will watch them very close. But the way I do things are, I watch earnings every day. So in a 3-month earnings reporting cycle, I've looked at every company at least once. I may have not really dove into them, but I've looked at them, seen what their trend is. Are they growing their revenue? Are they growing their earnings? Are they getting beat up and they're losing money? And because the reason I do that is because we're not really stock pickers. We'll buy an individual stock every once in a while, and I'll have conviction about individual stocks every once in a while. But we invest in funds, ETFs, and mutual funds, and I want to know what's inside of them before we buy them. So
you're dissecting them. You're just not looking at them
I'm
on
in
the
there
surface
looking
level.
what's inside this fund, and then when I see them on earnings, I can say, okay, I know this fund has that, and I know what the top holdings are in the funds we use. Um, so that's part of the research of being able to pick the right funds, pick the right ETFs. Why we change them sometimes, because they might have something in them that we're like, we probably want to get out of that, or they're just underperforming other ones in the same category, or the same, two like funds, and one of them's outperforming the other one.
Right.
That kind of thing.
What percentage of time do you think you put into that? Because we know you take phone calls, we know you talk to clients, we know we do rebalancing, but when it comes to the research, what percentage of your time goes into? I think it's probably way more than what people think.
It's probably 50% of my day. Now, so that's most days. Some days I have to go meet with clients. Some days I meet with clients out of the office. Other days I'm making trades, or we're looking at clients to rebalance their accounts. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of this. When I get here every morning, that's the first thing I do is pull up the earnings. Who's reporting earnings today? And then I look them up on Zacks. I look them up in Nitrogen. I look at them on the different finance sites and see what people are saying about them. See what and looking at their revenue and their earnings. Are they growing it? Is it going up or down? And that's when I have conviction about a stock. It's usually because they're growing earnings and revenue at, like, wow, look at the growth in this in 1 year.
Right.
They're growing their revenue by 200% and their earnings by 500%.
I know when Bitcoin and things like that came out, and a lot of people were excited about it. I know the one thing that you always said is gauging things by their earnings and going forward. You were saying there's nothing to gauge it on yet.
There's not, and there still isn't. I've always thought, I've kind of always said this may not be the right thing to say about it, but it's air money. And it's very difficult to understand how they come about getting it, where it goes, how
An evaluation of it.
and how it's valued. I tend to, when Warren Buffett gives you advice on something, I tend to follow it. He's probably the most successful investor in the history of the world, and he said he wouldn't pay $10 for it. So
Means something.
yeah. I just don't. I don't. It may be that one day it's the way of the world, right? Maybe it is.
Right.
But I just, it's very difficult for the average person to understand it and as you know, because you sat in meetings with me, when I do something, when I tell somebody we're going to do something, I'm going to probably over explain it. This is why we're doing it. This is what's in it. And I can't explain why we would do, so I'm not going to buy it.
Right.
I mean, I'll buy, if somebody calls, we can buy it in ETF form. And we've done that for a few clients that just, I want to buy it. So, okay, we'll buy you some. But we're buying an ETF form instead of buying Bitcoin directly.
Right.
Now there's, I don't know. It's becoming more and more of a thing. And if this Clarity Act thing passes, then the stablecoin thing is going to be a bigger deal. And I know Trump wants that stuff to pass. But we'll see. Stable coins are a little different. They're backed by something, and they're either backed by the dollar or something else.
But you made a good point there. It's like when you're what you just said in the last 30 seconds or so, you've got all this running in the back of your head. You're not we're not throwing darts at a wall. You're putting a lot of research. You're looking at the things that are affecting the outcome of the stock. Where's the future of the stock going? Does it have a place to go? What metrics are involved in it? And those are all the things you're diving into, and you're spending hours and hours and hours before you come up to a conclusion get to the rebalancing on Monday and tell the team, hey, I think this thing has some merit.
Yeah. Yeah, and we, it's not just me. It's a collaborative effort here.
Sure.
But yeah, I probably look at earnings and revenue and stocks and dive into the funds we use more than most of the other people here, because they depend on me to do that.
Well, and that's what talking about the team effort, that's what's great about this team effort. We've got people that are in front of clients all the time. Judy's in front of clients all the time. I'm in front of clients a lot. Aaron's getting in front of clients more. But we've really carved out the time for you to spend that time behind the desk. And so you're not in front of clients as much, but you're diving into that to keep us all up on the same page. And we're all doing our research too. And I think that's one thing, probably a point I need to make. It's not just you. Judy, Aaron, Ron, Gabe, we're all doing our research, and then we're flying all over the country, going to different due diligence meetings, talking to different investors. And I know you really like Brian Westbury a lot. And we spend the money and time to go meet with these people, talk with these people, and to make sure that we're really taking on a lot of data points.
I like Brian Westbury. I also like, we use Advisors Capital Management and a lot of third party. The guy that owns that company, Dr. Lieberman, always been a admirer of him and his opinions, and
just really a good human being. I know when we got a chance to meet, I sat and talked with him for probably an hour and a half at dinner.
Yeah,
he didn't know me from anybody, but man, he just treated me like I was the neighbor next door. Just a really genuine human being.
Yeah, and Brian's the same way. I've gone to, I go every year to First Trust big meeting they have. They have a big deal. They go to every city just about every year, and the owner of the company comes and he speaks, and Brian always speaks, and the McGarrigle, their chief investment officer, speaks also. But I've gone to him, and then after it's over, I've stood there and talked to Brian for 30 minutes just talking about stuff, the economy, and he's a big fly fisherman, so if we talk about fly fishing, he lives in Colorado and fly fishes a lot. He's the same way. He's real down to earth, and
I think that's my opinion is the people that are really good at this and really good in this industry, and the people you trust their opinion, that's a trait. They're just down to earth. They're good, everyday, average people. They can relate to people on a large scale. They're not trying to impress anybody with their super intelligence.
Right. And they don't.
They've got it.
They don't get overly hyped up about stuff or overly depressed when things aren't going good. Mm-hmm. That's part of investing. It's up, it's down. It's just the way it is. Over time, it's up. Mm-hmm. But in between the times, we're going to have bad days.
Right.
There's going to be bad days in the market. There's going to be 1,000-point down days. There's going to be, we're going to have times. People don't realize it, but every year at some point, the stock market is going to retreat 10%. Mm-hmm. It does it every year. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a year.
And it's really healthy for the market.
Sometimes it doesn't end up at the end of the year, but most of the time it does.
Mm-hmm. And it's healthy when it does it.
Yes. It gives us buying opportunities. It doesn't, things get overdone at times, and stock prices get to, some of the tech companies they have huge valuations. Mm-hmm. We never had a $1 trillion company, market cap company, prior to Apple in 2018 was the first time, and now there's 12 of them.
Isn't that great? It's like once one company breaks the barrier, the other ones are sure to follow behind.
Yeah, because now you've got NVIDIA, Broadcom, Tesla, SpaceX now, but Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, Broadcom, but yeah, there's Saudi Aramco is $1 trillion company.
Right.
It's just, there's a bunch of them now. And before 2018, there wasn't any.
That's amazing.
And there wasn't companies that Amazon and Walmart are approaching $1 trillion annual revenue.
Wow.
That was unthinkable 10 years ago. That's unthinkable that a company could have $1 trillion in revenue in 1 year. They're both well over $700 billion now. Wow. So it's not going to be long.
Right. And it's exciting to think with technology and AI and everything that's coming, if it took that long to have that many companies, I think you're going to see a whole lot more companies a whole lot faster feeding into all these data things and technology stuff. There's going to be a lot more to choose from.
AI and quantum and all this stuff is going to make there's going to be a lot of money to be made in this and our job is to stay on top of it and find out where to go with it.
So we spend a lot of time that people don't know about researching companies here locally behind our desk, right here in good old Tomball, Texas. We fly all over the country, and you were raised in Tomball.
I was raised in Tomball, yep. I grew up here. My parents moved to Tomball when I was 2 years old, and went to kindergarten through 12th grade. Moved away for many years, started a business and lived in all over the place. It was a business that required me to travel and stay in places for a long time. And then moved back when my parents got elderly and needed help, needed someone there to help out. So I came back at that time. Now they both passed. It's been several years now, but because I'm old.
Careful, I'm not too far behind you.
I'm not that old. I can still outdrive most of the younger guys on the golf course. So
that's good. That's important. Well, that's a good point too. It's like, so we spend our time doing a whole lot of research here. We fly over the country. We meet with a lot of people. We spend a lot of time, money, energy, and effort researching this stuff. But you also have a life outside of this, and you are an avid golfer.
Yes, very avid golfer. This time of year, I try to go every afternoon and at least play some.
Right.
Because it doesn't get dark till almost 9 o'clock, so.
Right.
I can go out there at 6 and still play 9, 10, 12 holes before it gets dark. And, and you know, when it's not pouring down rain, which we've had a lot of lately.
Yeah. Start to build an arc.
But yeah, I do that. Plus, it's good exercise, get you out, you know, a lot of walking. It's good for you.
Yeah.
Get some sunshine.
Am I allowed to mention you're an Astros fan with how they're currently doing, or no?
Yeah. Since I was a little kid, I used to listen to the Astros games on the radio with my mother. That'll tell you how old I am. Because when I was a kid, there weren't, you know, there was 3 TV channels.
Right.
There wasn't cable. There was no cable or satellite television. Now, it wasn't that long. I was probably, I don't know. I wasn't that old when they started being on TV and more often and stuff like that. But Mom and I, when I was a little kid, my mother loved sports, loved baseball, and she listened to the game every night on the radio, and I'd sit there and listen to it with her. And that's how I became I played you know, before I played golf, I played baseball when I was younger, all the way up into college. And it's always been my favorite sport. You know, I love baseball, and I love the Astros and Jose Altuve.
Yeah. But you know, it's funny, you were saying back in the day, and I listened to it on the radio, in our life growing up, there was big shifts. There was the regular rotary phone, and then it was the cell phone that looked like a big shoebox, right? And then, but now it's like there's so many changes in technology and everything, you don't even notice it anymore. It's just like one to the next to the next.
Yeah. You know, and that's every job. I talked to my grandmother one time about, because my grandmother was born in 1892, and she lived to be 101. And I asked her one time, I was like, man, the changes in your life. I mean, they went from horse and wagon, literally.
Right.
That's how they moved around. They got around on horses. They got around on horse and wagon. There was no cars, especially where they lived out in the country.
Right.
And she said that's probably the biggest thing is probably the fact that when she was a kid, you know, if you wanted to go 10 miles, it'd take you all day.
Oh, I'm sure.
And nowadays, you go 10 miles, you can do that in 10 minutes.
and then you go to Houston, Texas, and it's changed.
You can go 10 miles in Houston, it'll take you 2 hours. But
yeah, exactly.
But you know what I mean. And she said, you know, just the change. And of course, you'd think she went from that, traveling, moving by horse and buggy and wagon, to people landing on the moon and people going to space.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And so that's a wow. But it's kind of like that with us. Like you said, when we were kids, it's rotary phones. There was no computers. There was no, well, I'm sure NASA and the military had computers, but we didn't. There was no cell phones. There was no satellite and cable television. There was no internet. There was no none of that.
Well, I remember when my grandma got her first microwave, but back in that day, it was called a radar range.
Yeah, radar
And,
range up. I
and
remember
it had
that.
this dial, and me and my cousin had to make 1,000 cheese sandwiches and melt cheese and set them on fire and all kinds of stuff, And now it's just every day. But it's just like, but staying on top of these technology trends and everything else, it's just amazing the technology changes the next several years. The monies that are going to be made to people that are paying attention to it or want to get in with it. It's like you don't have to go start a company anymore. That's how wealth used to be made. Start a company, have employees, work together, accomplish something, manufacture, make something. Now you can just put some money in a company. I may never step a foot in one of those companies, but people can be made multimillionaires from the abilities of the companies that are out there.
Yep. And basically the internet started this explosion of technology. Once information became available to everyone, everywhere, it just, for one, it made the kids at the time, okay, I want to study this, and then you turn out with all these guys that can do programming and all these guys that can code, and that turned into, it just got better and better and better and better.
Right.
Because the more you do something, the more you practice at it, the better you're going to get.
Well, and I really think for guys even in our age, when the computer came out, when Google came out, it's like you type in, I want to look up a car of a certain vintage or whatever. Well, now you go to ChatGPT, I'm looking, and you have a conversation with this thing, because if you try to work it like Google, it doesn't work so well. But if you talk to it like you're trying to talk to another human, here's all the stuff that goes along with that topic.
Your phone listens to you.
Oh, yeah, there's
You
no
can
doubt
say
why.
something, and 5 minutes later on your
Pops
phone,
up right in
there's
front
an
of you.
ad on your phone.
Yeah. Matter of fact, because I have fat fingers, so I try to type stuff. So I'll just tell my wife, it's like, yeah, I really want to look at this, and I'll just mention it, and she goes like, okay. I said, well, I'm saying that so my phone will hear it, and then all of a sudden, boop, there it is. Okay, I found it. Michael, is there anything that you think people should know about you or the work that's done, as we're wrapping this up, the work that's done behind the scenes that they never see, and how much attention we pay to details that we're really thinking of people all the time? Is there anything you think we should share with
just,
someone?
I hope they know that we're working all the time, and one of the things and one of the reasons Judy and I have been together so long is we both pay a lot of attention to detail. The meat and potatoes of everything is in the details. If you don't get in the weeds with it, you don't really truly find out about what it is and what they're doing. So,
and I don't think you can have confidence with it unless you do.
No,
And doing what
right.
we do, if you don't get in the weeds, you can't have confidence in it.
right.
So, well, Michael, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for joining us in another episode of In Between the Niches, and we're going to have a lot more content coming. This is the first one in our new studio. We're excited about that, so we will start having quite a selection of different content coming out. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for watching In Between the Niches, where your financial story becomes a strategy.